Welcome, dear listeners. I'm Jonathan Carlin.
And I'm Benjamin Carlin.
And we invite you to join us through the Griffin doors, your one-way ticket to the enchanting world of Harry Potter. So grab your wands and dust off your broomsticks and join us as we unlock the mysteries behind Prisoner of Azkaban, Chapter 22, Owl Post Again.
We are at the end.
It's the last chapter.
Holy cow, I can't believe it. I feel like Prisoner flew by.
It flew by. It feels like we just started not just Prisoner, but the entire show.
I know. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We're only like a total of 13 months in at this point in time, I think, too.
Which is crazy when you consider that it's going to take the better part of next year to finish Goblet of Fire.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yep. It's gonna be an interesting saga, to say the least, as we start to get into these beefier, thicker books with so much going on. But I've been so pleasantly surprised with Prisoner. Like, I think I have highly underrated this book.
I mean, yeah, going through it like sentence by sentence like this, I feel like we have picked out so many fun details that I just like wasn't noticing the first time. But it's giving me like so much more context. I feel like I already liked Lupin a lot, but I feel like I love Lupin's character.
He's so good. He really is. It's like you get such a clear idea of how great he is as a teacher, how great he is with the students. Like, he's just this kind, caring person, which has been really fun to like just sort of like live and bask inside of, because we've all had that like one teacher who just like made a difference in our lives, and it's like, that's Lupin.
That's Lupin.
In some way, shape, or form, it's Lupin.
He makes a massive difference in Harry's life.
But yeah, otherwise, you also mentioned that like we've picked apart this book and found so many like interesting like little like snippets and doodads, and I honestly think even like the notes that I'm taking are becoming so much more elaborate as we go. Like, my pages are just covered in ink at this point.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I was going through some of our pages from the Chamber of Secrets and Philosopher's Stone earlier today, and like the comparison is laughable.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much, but I do want to venture to say that I think we're like getting better at this as we go.
I mean, for sure. We've been doing a lot of episodes, and it's expected that maybe you get a little more adept at it as we go along here. And it's really just been such a journey getting to the end of book 3 here. Like, when we started this podcast, like, not in my wildest dreams did I think we were going on tour with this podcast.
No. Yeah. The brand newest project that we did being the one that like turned into like our live show.
I know.
Which, by the way, just like a quick little reminder that tickets for the Southeast are now available starting in that tour will start in February 2025.
Yes. So if you haven't seen the announcement yet, we're going on tour again in Southeast.
Yes.
February.
So Charlotte, Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, Atlanta, and Nashville.
Yes, all those tickets are already on sale. There will be links down in the description. And Ben mentioned how much more we've been marking up the pages, so I'll just throw this in as well. That our offer on Patreon, if you become an annual member at any level, you will receive a page from one of our books. Which, as you can see, I don't know if you're watching on YouTube, you can give it a quick zoom in. They are like marked up like crazy people.
Yes, they're like, it really does remind me of like that scene from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where like Charlie Day's got like like the red strings going everywhere. I mean, it has become that in such a huge way. So, without any further ado, we can start our analysis here of chapter 22. Otherwise, we'll just keep announcing our pants off.
No, right. We should get to the content here. All right, so as ever, let's start with the chapter art, which features, I guess, Pigwidgeon, the owl, delivering a letter to Harry. Interesting. I guess you can see Sirius's handwriting on the letter, which is kind of cool. It's very faint.
It is very faint, but it is also rather scrolly.
It is.
It's fascinating for me to imagine Sirius Black, who comes across as so like almost like edgy, to sort of have like maybe a little bit of an interesting calligraphy.
Yeah, he's got very nice handwriting. Really, I would have thought it to be be kind of like messy.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, like almost like a scratchy scrawl type of situation.
Yeah.
You also get a feel for if this is just a standard sized letter, just how small Pigwidgeon is.
You absolutely do.
Because he is always described as being this like almost like little tennis ball zooming around, and it seems like that might even be generous.
Might be kind of generous. I also can't help but notice that there is a stamp on the letter.
I know. I wrote the exact same thing. Is postage required for
Do you
owl
need
mail?
postage?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like I guess for like the Daily Prophet, sometimes Hermione will have to like pay the owl, but that seems honestly, it feels like postage makes more sense than that, if you ask me. Like that you would.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, like, because it does seem like if the owl is delivering lots of Daily Prophets, for one, it doesn't seem like it could carry that many at once.
Right? Is it like one owl to newspaper?
Right. I mean, that would mean there's a lot of owls.
Lot. Yeah. What does the owlry at the Daily Prophet look like?
Must be massive.
Must be massive. But we did learn in the process of reading this book that apparently you can basically assume that every single owl is either owned by like the Ministry of Magic or is being used by a wizard.
Yeah, owls are like not public property of nature.
Yeah, right. Like they are all employed.
Yeah, which is good.
That is, it's hard to work out there. Which basically also means, because Sirius is going to say in this chapter that he like found this owl, it almost certainly means he stole this owl.
I know. Yeah, there's a huge piece of it, and we'll get to it. But I'm always like, what do you mean you found this owl? Like, were you like climbing a tree? Because there's
how you just find an owl.
I mean, Jay, in my entire years of living, I think I have seen maybe 3 owls that were not in zoos.
That's more than I've seen.
Yeah, if anything, I said 3 and I was like, 3's high.
3 is high. I've heard them. I know them to be out there, but see them with my own 2 eyes? I don't think so.
I
mean, they only come out at night for the most part, so that's probably a big part of it.
Right. Yeah. What are you doing at night?
Well, sleeping mostly. Or failing to sleep.
Not
I don't
owl
know.
watching. Yeah. Anyway, so owl post again. The last chapter of Prisoner of Azkaban. Let's go.
Yes. So we are coming off of the heels of Hermione's secret, where Sirius has gotten on top of Buckbeak. He has flown into the sky, and Harry is watching him leave, and Hermione is like, we gotta move. We got exactly 10 minutes to get back down to the hospital wing without anybody seeing us. Which fun, I think you pointed this out here, but this is sort of like a fun thing. So Hermione right here is saying we've got 10 minutes to go back down to the hospital wing.
Yes.
But back at the beginning of Hermione's secret, we know that like Dumbledore basically tells them like, we got to act fast. 3 hours should be enough. And then he like leaves the room.
Yes.
And so like at this point, like Dumbledore has not told them to go back in time yet.
Yes, which is just bonkers to think about. Like the mission is accomplished before they have even started the mission.
Right, but they still have to go complete it.
But the good news is that they will always complete it because they've always completed it.
Exactly.
So it's nice to know that it's like you can kind of like rest assured. It's like it worked. The plan worked. So yes, so that's great news. Harry though does sort of have this like moment where he's having to wrench his gaze away from the sky because like he's sort of like Sirius's freedom in this situation is. It's sort of like a double-edged sword for Harry because it basically is like he is watching his own freedom also fly away at the same time. Because,
exactly.
Like there was this brief moment where Harry thought like I'm going to get to go and live with Sirius Black. I'm not going to have to live with the Dursleys anymore. And so it's like this is tough for Harry. Like it's huge for Sirius. It's obviously what he wants to have happen, but he is losing something here.
He is losing something. And I was trying to think about this because like it is so rare that like in like fiction or when you're watching a show or something that the characters will bring up a desired outcome that doesn't come to pass.
That's a good point.
Like if you're watching a show and they're like, we got to find this treasure or whatever, like they're going to find it.
Right.
You know, like they're going to have a million twists and turns and things are going to go wrong left and right, but like they're going to find it.
They're going to find it.
You know?
Yeah. And this, you're right, because this is like, you know, that glimmer of like Harry being able to leave the Dursleys and go live with him. It's presented to us, but we really never get it. Like
No, you never get it.
He spends some time at number 12, but not really ever as like a proper resident, more just as a guest.
Right. And it's not like he's living with Sirius. He's just sort of living at the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it never really feels like it gets to come to pass. And it's like, it's okay right now, because right now you're like, well, yeah, that would have been too easy. But surely, eventually he'll get there. Like, we'll figure this out at some point, but they will not.
They will not.
Yeah.
Nope. But then from there, Harry and Hermione have to start their descent back down through all of the spiraling staircases and get back to the hospital wing so that they can sort of like close the loop, so to speak, with Dumbledore and not really leave any room for their having like left to be discovered.
Right.
You know, so he's in the process of like locking the door when they're going to arrive back and be able to walk back in. But as per always, it wouldn't be like a nighttime walk through the castle of Hogwarts without running into at least Snape.
At least Snape, yeah. So they hear Snape coming first, and he's there with Fudge. And Snape is like, he is so anxious here. He's like, only hope Dumbledore's not going to make difficulties. The kiss will be performed immediately. And it's like, you know that Snape, he can like feel it in the air. He's like, Dumbledore trusts Potter. Potter wants Sirius free. Dumbledore, like it feels like it feels like there's no way out, and yet
it's like I can taste it.
Yeah, but he knows Dumbledore is going to be like up to something. He's just like, let's go. Let's run. You want to run?
Why don't we run?
Why don't we run? Let's do it. We'll run. Yeah.
I hate this though from Snape's perspective, because it's like his motivations are just so selfish. Like this is one of those where it's like, I hope Dumbledore's not going to make difficulties. It's like, you realize Dumbledore is only going to make difficulties if Sirius getting away is the right thing to do.
Oh, I know.
Like,
that's the thing.
It's like, you know Dumbledore. It's not like he's just going to let like a known dangerous person go back out into the world. It's
right.
Like, you're worried that what's going to happen is this story is somehow going to be true and Sirius is going to not be punished, and that's going to upset you. And that's wrong, Snape.
That is wrong. Yeah, so he is just very worried about his own petty agenda here. He really does not care whether or not Dumbledore's intentions are pure. He's like, yeah, I'll protect Harry, but Sirius Black, I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so.
Yes.
So yeah, he's pretty anxious about it. Yeah, only hope Dumbledore's not going to make difficulties. He absolutely is. And then you've got Fudge down there. This whole Black affair has been highly embarrassing, and it's like, yeah, I guess it has been. That doesn't seem like the main priority, but.
Yeah, he sort of shows like a little bit of those like true Cornelius Fudge colors a little bit, where he's like, I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to informing the Daily Prophet that we've got him at last.
Yeah,
it's like his first instinct upon capturing a convict isn't just like, the danger has subsided. It's like, I can't wait for the good press.
Right. Yes, you know? He is way more concerned about like being able to get the good press out of it than he is that he has cleared the danger.
Right.
Like, yeah. His greater concern is that he will look dumb, not that people are safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I love his line. It says, and once young Harry's back in his right mind, I expect he'll want to tell the prophet exactly how you saved him. I just highlighted that. It was like, Fudge is so dumb.
Right. I know. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, that's how that would go.
Yep. Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Like, it's funny to me because we know so well, and it's probably slightly unfair to Fudge, who doesn't know the dynamic between these two nearly as well. But it's like, Fudge, you have no idea.
You have no idea.
Yeah. It's like these two. There's no way in the world Harry would go on record and be like, yeah, Snape helped me.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Even if it was true, even if Sirius had been a murderer and was about to kill Harry and Snape walked in and actually saved him, he also would not do it.
I don't see Harry giving that interview, not for 1 second.
Nope. Yeah, but even Snape knows that. It's just like Harry caught a glimpse of Snape's smirk. He's like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Yeah. But of course, not only did they run into Snape and Fudge, but then, of course, they run into Peeves, which is just such a random obstacle they run into when getting back to the hospital wing. Like, he doesn't really stop them at all. It's just like I guess we needed a reason for 10 whole minutes to have passed.
I know. Yeah, it's like maybe it would just be like it's unsatisfying to just be like Hermione and Harry walked quietly down the deserted hallways until they got back to the room. Dumbledore was standing there locking the door. That's it.
Yep.
It's like, no, yeah, of course we've got to have all these like obstacles just in case we make a video game out of this someday.
Exactly. Yeah. Then you're like, oh, we're almost there. Turn the corner. Oh no, it's Peeves.
Get past Peeves by pressing A or something.
Flipendo.
A percentage of people got that reference.
They did. They did. If you've played any of the Harry Potter video games, Flipendo. I mean, that I can't even tell. It's like ingrained into my memory.
Oh, I know.
Playing Harry Potter 1 on the PC.
It was so good. But yeah, so then what I do think is kind of interesting about this, though, is it's the way in which Peeves responds to things. Because, like, as far as Peeves is concerned, it's like he wants nothing but, like, fun and pranks and, like, whatever, mischief to be abound. And I feel like Peeves is negatively impacted by threats out in the wizarding world because it's like it brings the mood down altogether, which I have to suspect, like, lessens his own power a little bit. So he's like bouncing along because, he's like in very good spirits, and Hermione's sort of like, oh, he's horrible. I bet he's all excited because the Dementors are going to finish off Sirius. But to be fair to Peeves here, this is actually like very similar to how Peeves will ultimately react to the downfall of Voldemort himself.
That's true.
Like he's like singing like this like cackling song that's like, we got him, we won, now we can have fun. And I can't remember exactly what the words are, but it's something
got moldy.
Yes.
Something like that.
So anyway, at least he's a little bit consistent is what I'm going for there.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah, there you go. All right, Peeves. And then, like, Hermione brings up, like, oh, if we don't get back inside that door before Dumbledore locks it, they're like, it's like, she's like, oh, I don't want to think about what's going to happen. And it's like, nothing, right? Like, what happens if you don't get inside the door? If you get in the door before you leave, you'll see yourself, right?
Right, yeah.
So, like, you're hoping to arrive basically exactly as Dumbledore walks out of the door.
They will have a slightly less airtight alibi, I think, is all that will really happen here. Like,
right.
It's not like disaster will ensue. It's not like the Time Turner will like undo all of its past actions. It's not like they will be like in physical danger or something like that. Like none of those things are really on the table. And so I think this is just sort of like meant to build suspense because Hermione's just like, I don't want to think about it. And it's like, it's like, that's because there's nothing to really be that concerned about.
Right.
And also, I just think this is slightly funny because this is a note that I wrote from when we did the show in San Diego, and I completely forgot that I wrote it here. But it says, I don't want to think about it, Hermione moaned, and I underlined it and wrote, LOL from 30 feet behind.
Because she's running slower than Harry. That's right.
I think we brought that up in the last episode, but yeah.
Several seconds later, Hermione arrived.
More out of breath than Harry for clarity.
For clarity, yeah. She's not, spending too much time at the library, Hermione, hit the old Hogwarts jogging track.
Of course. Oh man, so just a funny little non-plot related note there from me. Okay, let's see. So they're creeping along. The door opened. Dumbledore's back appeared. So this is basically them like appearing on the scene where Dumbledore is saying his like departure advice, like you must not be seen.
Yes.
Like that is like what he is saying to them.
Right, and then he says that to them, closes the door, turns around, and there they are again.
Yes. So Dumbledore backed out of the room, closed the door, took out his wand and magically locked it. Panicking, Harry and Hermione ran forward. Dumbledore looked up. A wide smile appeared under the long silver mustache. Well, he said quietly. We did it, said Harry breathlessly. And I just think that this must have just been such a fun moment for Dumbledore to like experience. Like it would be such an unusual thing to almost like be like, hey, there's this very complicated, very important big task that I need you to go do. Okay, all right, ready, go. did you do it?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
like it's like he gets the immediate gratification
Yes.
of being like, here's an assignment. Good luck. Hope you figure it out. I know it's going to take a whole lot of ingenuity, but like, and how'd it go?
Yes, I know. It's so fun for him. And I love it just as Dumbledore beamed at them. Like, he's just so proud.
He is, yes.
Like, yes, he's like, he really trusts it. Because you know what? Because he didn't go with them. It feels like he could have gone, but he didn't. And yeah, like they just totally knocked it out of the park. Well done, well done.
Yes.
And like I guess this was his plan the entire time, like hoping to walk out there and basically see them so that he could let them right back in and lock them in. So that had to have been his plan the whole time.
Yeah, I think so. So it kind of seems like that's basically what's like going on, is that like the lock will only lock once. So in the event that like Madame Pomfrey can like hear this from the other room, because she's about to like endorse their alibi that they never left.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of like the big thing. But anyway, yeah, absolutely amazing timing, because they're like listening through the door to be like, yep, I think you've gone. Time to go on in.
Time to go back in.
Yep.
Yeah, so they walk back in, and you're right. Out comes Madame Pomfrey. She's like, did I hear the headmaster leaving? Am I allowed to look after my patients now? So again, for her, this has also been only like 10 seconds.
Exactly.
As well.
Like, essentially nothing has happened. But then it says she was in a very bad mood. Harry and Hermione thought it best to accept their chocolate quietly.
I know.
Which I'm just like, oh, darn.
I know. I love the idea that she's just like standing over there, forcing them to eat chocolate. Like, we're sorry. We'll eat our candy now.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait for my daughter Addison to read this page, because she's like, wait a second.
Wait, what's this?
Candy? Chocolate?
Candy?
Anywhere?
I want a chocolate, please.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And then, sure enough, just a couple minutes later, they hear a distant roar of fury echoing from somewhere above them, which is, of course, Snape, realizing that Sirius has escaped, and he knows exactly what is up. Immediately, Snape just turns and heads right back to the hospital wing. He is mad.
Yeah. This is it's like, can you imagine, like, because they just ran from 10 minutes away. So however loud Snape is roaring here is loud enough to be carrying through this like stone castle at night, like all the way down to where Madame Pomfrey is like, now really?
Yes, I know, right? So it is. He is that angry. And then you get to hear some Fudge talking to him. He says, he must have disapparated Severus. We should have left somebody in the room with him. Which, one, it is simply ridiculous that Fudge doesn't know you can't apparate or disapparate inside of Hogwarts. And two, you absolutely should have left somebody in the room with him. Like,
yes.
What are you thinking?
Right.
What are you thinking? This guy's already escaped Azkaban, and you left him in a classroom.
Right. Like, I'm glad Sirius got away. However, if this is a real criminal, terrible.
Absolute. Like, what are you didn't leave anyone outside the door. You know he can do magic. You know he already escaped your prison with the Dementors.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't even surprise me if there was just a spare wand in the classroom, you know?
Yes, I know. Wait, and you're totally right about the separation. And this is a fun note from last week's episode or a couple weeks ago. I think there's a scene where we were giving Fudge a little bit of credit because he comes in and he sort of is like, have they had any chocolate?
Yes.
And we're like, okay. Fudge still knows like some things. But somebody did write in and they were like, remember Fudge was the one who always had to go and visit Azkaban because like that's when he gives the Daily Prophet to Sirius. So he may only know about the chocolate because he himself has needed to take the remedy before.
That's true.
Upon his visits. And I was like, haha, now we can take away a little bit of credit we gave to Fudge.
I know.
Which I like.
It's so funny that like when you think about Fudge, you think of him as just like a guy who knows nothing when he's like, you know, the president, basically.
I know. Oh, yeah, I know. It's just
like,
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's like he seems so incompetent in every single way.
Right.
Yeah.
Classic Fudge.
Classic Fudge.
But yeah, so Snape, who is keeping his voice very calm here, screams, "He didn't disapparate! You can't apparate or disapparate inside this castle. This has something to do with Potter."
He's like, Severus, be reasonable. Harry has been locked up. But it's like, I'm not sure Fudge actually knows that.
I don't know.
Yeah, right. He left, and then Dumbledore was like, I'll lock you in.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. I guess he's just assuming that's what happened there.
Maybe, but the very next line is just 3 letters, which is goes bam. To which I like to think that Snape has kicked in the door.
I think so too.
Yeah. Just like total heel of the foot, just like really, roundhouse.
He's mad. Yeah, he's not magicking open that door. He kicked it. He's
it.
that mad.
Yeah.
Fudge, Snape, and Dumbledore came striding into the ward. Dumbledore alone looked calm. I just highlighted that and said LOL. He's just, like this. The next couple pages of Dumbledore is like peak Dumbledore, where he is just like, oh, I don't know what happened. What could it have been? And he's gonna gaslight Snape so hard.
This to me is proof that like forever and ever and ever we mistake the sentiment that Dumbledore trusts Snape so vehemently, as if that means that he likes him.
Yeah.
I think that these next couple paragraphs is proof that Dumbledore does trust him. He trusts his motivations. He does not like him. And so he's like, oh, I get to watch Severus like squirm a little bit. Like, yes, please.
I know, right? Especially because like Snape is absolutely right. He's just like, out with it, Potter. What did you do? And Madame Pomfrey is just like, I love that she's one scolding Snape here. She's like, Professor Snape, control yourself.
I literally wrote, Poppy, not afraid of anyone.
Not afraid of anyone.
No, not whatsoever.
Not Dumbledore, not the Minister of Magic, not Snape, a former Death Eater. Yeah, and that Fudge even Fudge is sort of just like, be reasonable, Snape. The door's been locked. We just saw.
They helped him escape. I know it.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Yes, they did.
They did. They absolutely did. Snape knows it. Yeah, I know they did. I love Fudge when he's like, calm down, man. Like, it just doesn't sound like him at all.
No, I know. My note there was odd for him to be the voice of reason.
I know. So you're talking nonsense, and it's sort of just like, it's funny that Fudge is calling out someone for talking nonsense when that's all he's gonna do almost the entire rest of the time we know him.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, then he continues yelling like he did it. I know he did it. And then finally Dumbledore chimes in with, that will do, Severus. Think about what you were saying. The door has been locked since I left the ward 10 minutes ago. Madame Pomfrey, have these students left their beds? Of course not, said Madame Pomfrey, bristling. I would have heard them.
Yeah, I would have heard them, except that they did and you didn't.
Well, technically not true, but still.
But still, also, this is just Dumbledore. I mean, this is literal gaslighting, where he's just like, I know Potter did it, and Dumbledore's like, Severus, how could they have done it? They've been locked in here. What do you think? I arranged some sneaky plan with a time turner or something? Come on, listen to yourself. You sound ridiculous. And that's basically what he's saying. He's like, you sound ridiculous right now. Right. Correct, but ridiculous.
Yes, and I'm going to lean on the ridiculous part and not the correct part.
Yes.
And then he follows it up with like, well, there you have it, Severus. Unless you were suggesting that Harry and Hermione are able to be in two places at once.
I know, which is even worse, because this is like, Snape certainly knows that Hermione has a time turner.
He must know.
I know.
All of the teachers must have been informed that like she was going to need to use this like sort of extraordinary method to get to her classes.
Frankly, I'm surprised Fudge doesn't know either, because I'm pretty sure that McGonagall had to write all sorts of letters to the Ministry, and it feels like giving someone access to time travel is something that he might even need to like be aware of.
Yes.
You know?
It's like that seems like it goes to the top desk.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I also imagine, though, that as Dumbledore is saying this, he is absolutely smiling ear to ear. And he's like, Snape, you're not suggesting Hermione can be in two places at once, are you? Wink. This is just like, what are you going to do about it? That's obviously not possible, and yet we both know that it is. But you can't really bring it up, can you? Can you?
No,
can
not
you?
so much. Not so much.
Yeah. Snape stood there seething, because like Snape has to be sitting there. He knows Dumbledore is lying to him. Like, he knows the entire situation and is powerless to like speak against it.
It's the best.
It's so funny.
Yes.
It's so funny.
It does say Dumbledore, whose eyes were twinkling behind his glasses. Snape whirled about, robes swishing behind him.
Yeah.
It's so dramatic.
Yeah.
So dramatic.
So dramatic.
Do you think he practices that swish?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
In the mirror.
In the mirror. Yeah. He's got that down. Fellow seems quite unbalanced, said Fudge.
I'd watch out for him if I were you, Dumbledore.
Foreshadowing.
Like, yes, big time.
Big time.
Big time. Yeah, it's like, yeah, Fudge. Yes.
Yeah.
You've got this sorted. And Dumbledore is just sort of like, he's just suffered a severe disappointment.
Yeah. He's not the only one, puffed Fudge. The Daily Prophet's going to have a field day. We have Black Corner and he slipped through our fingers again, which is just more like sowing seeds for like Order of the Phoenix here, where Fudge, like we kind of mentioned this earlier, but he's more concerned that the Daily Prophet is going to make fun of him than he is that Sirius is like out there maybe going to like murder more people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All I need now is for the sword of that hippogriff's escape to get out and be made a laughing stock. Yeah. Yeah. That's what people care about. I'm sure like this is another thing. It's like the general wizarding public, like they must not care at all about like
about
a
Buckbeak.
pet at school.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's not a concern to your average citizen for sure. Especially because like anybody who even knew about hippogriffs would be like, it sounds like he just did all the wrong things.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Like Draco. I mean, because that's the thing is like Lucius is literally just bending the advisory board or whatever's will to what his perspective is.
Yeah.
Like he is just forcing them to do what he wants.
Yeah.
So, anyway, at this point, though, is when Dumbledore says, "And the Dementors, they'll be removed from school, I trust." "Oh, yes, they'll have to go," said Fudge, running his fingers distractedly through his hair. "Never dreamed they'd attempt to administer the kiss on an innocent boy."
Yeah, I know. Very convenient that they'll just have to leave. They won't be here next year at all. But it seems surprising that they wouldn't like be stationed around other wizarding places. Like in the future, you know, it's not like they're in Diagon Alley next year or anything.
I know, yeah.
Or like Hogsmeade even.
I know. The other thing I think is interesting about this too is that like it doesn't seem like he says that sentiment, like I never dreamed they'd attempt to administer the kiss on an innocent boy, but like this doesn't help Harry's case at all in 2 years in Order of the Phoenix, where it's like that's basically what happens to him and Dudley.
Oh, I know.
You know, it's like Fudge is just sort of like ridiculous, and it's like, no, Fudge, you've seen this happen before.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think he's arguing there that there couldn't have been Dementors.
Yeah, in Little Whinging.
Yeah, in Little Whinging.
Yeah.
But then the other thing I just highlighted here was that, like he says, never dreamed they'd attempt to administer the kiss on an innocent boy. Like, it is surprising to Fudge that this was their behavior. Like, and like, sure enough, they have not attacked any other innocent people the entire year.
Right.
So like, this is this sort of part of our theory that like, is it possible that like the real reason they attacked Harry is because they recognized that like there was like the piece of Voldemort's soul inside of him?
Yeah, I mean, and that is almost what you need to draw the conclusion on. Otherwise, we sort of have like our theory about one of the Dementors, or like Death, who met the Peverils on the Lonely Road.
Yeah.
Went on to be a Dementor and was literally looking at the last living descendant of Ignotus Peveril, the one who did successfully foil him. And sort of like, in my head, like when he sees Harry, it's almost like, Ignotus, like after all this time.
Exactly. Yes. Is
but
that you?
That's more of like a fun headcanon explanation that I think something we can like wholly support.
Yeah.
I think in the meantime, the thing that makes the most sense is like, because this is sort of like an unusual behavior for the Dementors, isn't it? Like they are guarding the prison all the time. We know that their effect on the prisoners is terrible, and they are like driven crazy by the effect of it. But the Dementors are not just going through willy-nilly and like opening up the gates of the prison and like administering kisses to innocent victims just because they're there,
Or guilty victims.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Or guilty victims. Yes, it's like this is a strange situation where they're attacking Harry, and it's kind of like, why are they attacking?
Yeah, why are they attacking him? But possibly because what they're recognizing is the most guilty person.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's almost as if like they have been authorized. Like if you find Voldemort or Sirius Black, then you may administer the kiss at your
At your leisure.
Yeah, at your leisure. And they, in that moment, they're like, wait a second.
Jackpot! Both of them.
Feast time.
And it wouldn't maybe even be that surprising though, because they think Sirius is trying to meet up with Voldemort.
Also true.
Yeah.
Also true. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But then the next thing though that we come up with is Fudge suggests that perhaps they should station dragons at the school entrance.
Yeah.
Which I think is an interesting piece of, I don't even know if we can quite call this foreshadowing, but there will be dragons at the school next year.
There will be dragons at the school next year for the Triwizard Tournament. What I think is funny is that like Fudge is thinking of different precautions they could have to guard against Sirius Black, who is I guess still on the loose, but they don't act like they don't do dragons, but they also don't do anything.
I know, yeah, that's
You know?
right. It's almost as if sort of like the idea here is that this whole like escaped convict, Sirius Black, most dangerous man ever. It's like as far as the public is concerned, and this would be a case that I think the public would be concerned about. They have just as much reason to be living in fear as they have for the whole past year. But realistically, like, we're going to go to the Quidditch World Cup. It doesn't really seem like there's like wanted posters for Sirius anywhere.
I know, right?
Like, it sort of just seems like the sun sets on that concern. It's just sort of like, oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah, and it's like, I guess like Dumbledore doesn't like arrange any security because he knows the truth about Sirius, but like you'd think the Ministry would still be concerned about the safety of the students.
Like almost insist upon it.
Yeah,
I
or
agree
the
with
parents
that.
would.
Or the parents, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
yep. Let's see here. At this point in time, though, Ron finally wakes up to sort of catch up with everything that's going on.
He's missed so much.
I know, it's just too bad because there is like we were, I think we talked about this last time, but we were writing the What If Ron Was in Hufflepuff series, and one of the things that we had changed about the situation is that Ron was able to travel back in time with Harry and Hermione,
Yeah.
which uniquely put him in the position to be able to collect the escaped Scabbers after he transformed back into a rat. And we've talked a lot about like time turners and how everything that happens during this saga must happen, but we don't really know what happens to Peter next. Like he just sort of transforms into a rat and like scuttles off into like the forest or whatever. So it's like it wouldn't be unreasonable under a circumstance where Ron was able to go and position himself in a spot where he could grab Scabbers and just not interact with anybody else for the rest of the night.
Right.
Harry and Hermione still go do Dementor shenanigans, and he's just sitting there gripping his rat once again.
Exactly.
But either which way, he's been asleep. So you kind of get this funny situation where it's like, why are we in here? Where's Sirius? Where's Lupin? What's going on? Harry and Hermione looked at each other. You explain, said Harry, helping himself to some more chocolate.
Yeah, he's like, I've had too much work tonight. You're on this one, Hermione. Let's see. So what this is okay. Speaking about there not being any more like security or whatever, Harry, Ron, Hermione, they leave the hospital wing at noon the next day to find an almost deserted castle. The sweltering heat meant everyone was taking full advantage of another Hogsmeade visit. Like, are you kidding me? Here, Hogwarts, like Sirius Black was captured in the castle last night and just escaped again, and you're letting all of the students go to the neighboring village? Like, are you kidding me?
It's like that is like a known like
right.
A known danger on the loose in this area.
Yes. Like it is beyond me that they let this happen at all. Like, obviously there is no threat, but like, I can't believe the students would even go. How does this news not get out?
I don't know. Yeah, that goes back to the end of year one where Dumbledore sort of has that like hilarious line where it's like, what happened below the school last night was a total secret. So naturally, the whole school knows.
Yeah, well, plus, I think we're going to find out later in this chapter that Snape is just sort of like, oh, yeah, Lupin's a werewolf. Like, Snape's not letting any of this, like, go to rest.
No. It's like we know somebody's blabbing.
Yeah.
Snape.
Snape. He is named. So it is. I cannot believe that the students are allowed to go to Hogsmeade while Sirius is believed to be so obviously in the area. Because from their point of view, this is his third attack on the school.
Yes.
In the year.
Yep.
Like, what are the students thinking?
Right. Of course. I guess when it comes down to it, Dumbledore knows they're safe, but they don't.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Either which way, of the people who decide not to go, including Ron and Hermione, and they're going to just spend time with Harry wandering the grounds, taking in the giant squid, waving its tentacles lazily above the water, which always just sounds delightful.
Right. Let's see.
Y'all, we need to take a brief pause to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Shopify. Outside of the world of podcasting and theory crafting, I also share another business endeavor with my wife, Alice, who has always had a deep love for all things secondhand. So together we created a company called Nude, not 100 yards from where Jay and I first started Super Carlin Brothers. And nude is like the word new, but in past tense, and so you get nude, but the idea is to, wear clothes. The business has been so well received in our hometown, but when we launched our website using Shopify, something kind of amazing happened. A whole new world of customers were unlocked, all with their own unique tastes. Pieces that got overlooked in the store were being snatched up online. It's completely changed what kinds of things make it into the store. And not only has it been great for business, but Shopify also has so many amazing tools to help you as your company grows. One of my favorite features is a heat map of the globe showing us little dots for everywhere in the world people are visiting the site from. Shopify can help you take a small town business and open up a whole world of potential customers. So upgrade your business and get the same checkout that we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Griffin. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Griffin to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Griffin.
All right, so what do we have? Hagrid shows up. This is a very bleary-eyed Hagrid, so I guess he's just been crying with tears literally all night with the joy that Buckbeak escaped. No, I shouldn't feel happy after what happened last night. I mean, Black escaped again, but guess what? I love that he doesn't know. So that's so funny. And it does feel like it's like worth celebrating from his point of view.
Well,
but what?
I mean, it feels to me like if you're Hagrid though in this situation, you're like, oh my gosh, such good news, Buckbeak got away. Like it feels like the discovery that Sirius Black was discovered on the grounds and escaped once again would be a bit of a dark cloud over his celebration. I feel like maybe this takes away from the Buckbeak survival
It might be. It also seems like if you're Hagrid and you're like, wow, like, oh, Sirius Black escaped again and Buckbeak is missing? Like, it almost seems like you could just piece it together.
Yes.
So you might just assume, like, he stole him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
It feels almost obvious what happened.
Right. The giant flying horse eagle.
Yeah, right. But Hagrid, on the other hand, has his own headcanon. He's like, yeah, I can't have tied him up properly. It's like, I made a mistake. Whoopsie. Man, so that it's funny that he just believes that's what happened, that Buckbeak was just like, yeah, I just got free just at the exact right moment.
But then he also goes on to say, thought he might have met Professor Lupin on the grounds last night, but Lupin says he never ate anything. And
Yeah.
I'm like, goodness, would that have been uncomfortable?
I know, right?
It's like, oh, Buckbeak's free. Lupin ate him.
Oh, no. Oh, I mean, that would be so much meat for one werewolf to eat in a single night.
Yeah, arguably too much.
I know. Also, it's interesting that Lupin at least is able to keep his mind enough to know for sure that didn't happen, which is interesting. That, like, he is aware of what happened, even if he couldn't, like, control.
Oh, that seems terrible.
I know.
When you think about it, like, through that lens, because you're not in control, but then you still have to have the memories of what happened.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh.
That sounds,
Don't
terrible.
like the sound of that.
Also, just as a side note, in the movies, Lupin does run into Buckbeak, and Buckbeak, like, fights him off.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so that's one of those where, like, I always like that scene in the movies because, like, they keep Buckbeak with them, and it's sort of like it's a good, like, fun little action sequence, just that doesn't really affect anything.
That's true. That's true. And I mean, the thing is that Buckbeak, for the most part, I mean, for one, is probably just way too big for Lupin to eat in the first place, and also animals are not impacted by werewolf bites. Like, case in point, the entire reason why they're animagus. So. Let's see here. Then Hagrid drops the news that Professor Lupin's a werewolf. He's packing now because Snape told everybody this morning, which is just one of those things where it's just like, come on, Snape, man. Like, that's just not cool, outing somebody like that.
Oh, I know. But I love that, like Hagrid mentions that Professor Lupin's a werewolf, and, like, there is no prejudice from him at all on this front.
Right. Yes. He is not preoccupied. And I suppose you could hail back to that line from Chamber of Secrets where I think Tom Riddle says that Hagrid was raising, like, werewolf
cubs under his bed or something.
Yeah, so maybe I mean, I guess there's werewolves in the Forbidden Forest, so maybe he has experience with them.
They are werewolves, but they're not like regular werewolves. It's like if two transformed werewolves find each other and are able to mate, the resulting offspring will just be like highly intelligent wolves.
Right.
But they are still called werewolves.
Okay.
So that's like other breed, and those are what Hagrid would have had to have had, because otherwise, that like baby werewolves are just baby humans,
baby people.
Yeah, baby people. That, you know what? Starting to get weird.
Yep.
Yeah.
So probably not that. But yeah. So then he basically says, resign first thing this morning. Says he can't risk it happening again. Which, I mean, I suppose like on the whole is a responsible stance.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, like the worst case scenario did happen.
It is, and it's like I know we keep like joking about like, oh man, how like avoidable it, or like how easily you could just avoid the moonlight, like if you have to be struck by it. But like I do keep I keep noticing the moon now because we've been talking about it so much. And like even this morning when I walked outside, it was like a situation where it was morning, but I could see like a crescent moon, but I could see the rest of the moon.
Okay.
Like the dark part, you know?
Yep.
So it wasn't like I was looking at a full moon, but I could see a full circle of moon. And I was like, you know, I immediately go to Harry Potter brain. I'm like, would that cause a werewolf?
Does that count?
Right. Because I can see the full circle. The moon is in the sky right now, you know, and it's like
I don't think that would count.
I don't think that would count either. I think it does have to be a full moon.
Because I think, I mean, and I could just be quoting something that's incorrect right now, but I feel like there is like some statistics that say like there is like actually like more crime during full moons, which maybe is because like
there's more light.
Yeah, for more things to happen. But yeah, it feels like the like actual state of the full circle at night, in particular, like the lunar status of the full moon is sort of like associated with sort of this like unusual.
Yeah. But you can see sometimes a full moon in broad daylight.
That's true.
You know, like would that count?
That seems like it would count.
Right.
I think that would count.
I think that would count.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or is it like, because what difference would it make for like the night sky? You know, or if it was like, does it have to be like past noon or something? Like technically nighttime. You know, I don't know.
You know, this is more than I've ever contemplated lycanthropy in my whole life.
I know this is just like because I just keep thinking about it whenever I look up and I see like the full moon in broad daylight, and I'm like, I can see this being a problem if you're a werewolf. like you'd walk out and be like, nah, it's not even night. What's the? Oh no! Yeah, like that would be a real problem.
That would be.
I didn't take the wolfsbane potion.
Maybe you just always take the wolfsbane potion.
Maybe you just do.
Just do that.
Yeah, that's just part of your daily regime. Maybe that's the real solution. But I guess when Lupin was a kid, that wasn't
available
on the table. Harry runs off to try and go talk to Lupin, who I cannot believe he does not try to like keep up more with Lupin next year.
Yeah, I know. It's too bad, really, because like he's gonna have to go to like extraordinary lengths, and like the beginning of Goblet, he's gonna wake up from the dream where he's just like seen into, you know, Voldemort's mind, and he's able to like witness like the entire scene unfold with Frank Bryce and all that, and he's like, if only there was someone I could like write to, and it's like, you mean like the amazing Defense Against the Dark Arts professor who knows all sorts of things and who could easily write back to you and definitely would?
I know. I think we'll find this out in a couple of weeks when we start Goblet of Fire. But I think it literally says like, Harry wished he had like an older person, someone like a parent who knew about dark arts. And it's like, dude, you knew Sirius for like 20 minutes.
Right.
And you spent like hours of time with Lupin, who was your dad's just other best friend, and who absolutely acted like way more of a father figure to you last year than Sirius did.
Yes. Yeah. The fact, I mean, in that almost feels like writing convenience, where it's sort of like it would be too easy for him to just simply contact Lupin.
Right.
Is sort of like what it comes down to.
That's basically what it comes down to.
Or maybe Harry just thinks that Sirius has got a bit more swagger, you know, that like matches his own, you know.
Of course. Yeah. That's probably it, I guess.
Right.
But
yeah, so he goes into Lupin's office, and Lupin is of course packing up. He's got the empty Grindy Low tank and the battered old suitcase, and he's bending over something on his desk, and he says, I saw you coming, said Lupin, smiling. He pointed the parchment he'd been poring over. It was the Marauders map.
Yes.
And so it's just kind of fun that like Lupin's still kind of like just kind of keeping a little eye on him.
Still got the map out. It also says he started emptying his desk drawer, taking out all the content. So I love that he's also packing by hand, not like doing it magically at all, even though it seems like he could just like wave his wand and be like, and I'm done. done.
And I'm done. I know.
Yeah.
This is actually quite a good sequence, though, in the films where he's got like his shoes and like I think he like casts his wand over and the shoes like lift themselves up like into a box that like close.
Yeah.
There's a couple like really cool little like magical packing things that he does that
It's
are
very
just sort
Mary
of-
Poppins-y.
It is a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Who knew? Lupin and Mary Poppins.
Lupin and Mary Poppins.
The ship people never expected.
They're not, right? Where's that? Where's that?
I don't know. So let's see here.
So Harry starts asking him, says, the Ministry of Magic don't think you were helping Sirius, do they? And he says, like, no, Professor Dumbledore managed to convince Fudge that I was trying to save your lives. However, it was the final straw for Severus. I think the loss of the Order of Merlin hit him hard. But it's like, it's interesting that he doesn't get the Order of Merlin because it almost all must come down to how he's reacting to Sirius escaping. You know?
You mean because he has otherwise successfully captured Sirius?
Right, yeah. Like, and otherwise, he still saved the kids.
Also true.
From the point of view of the Ministry. Like, he still captured Sirius and saved the kids, and it's not Snape's fault at all, even from the Ministry's point of view, that Sirius gets away.
Right.
It's like, why doesn't he get the accolade? And it's like, basically because he freaks out in front of Fudge, and Fudge is like, pretty unbalanced, that one.
Yeah, it's like, maybe I'm not going to go get you and try to wangle you some first class.
Yeah. I couldn't wangle it, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Too bad.
Nope, no wangling here.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's see. Then Lupin, despite himself, says that Snape accidentally let slip that I'm a werewolf, which is like, yeah, that's a generous interpretation there,
Yes.
Lupin. You know,
but I feel like this is also classic Lupin. Like I've been talking about it all book, but I feel like he's kind of got like the same candor as Dumbledore at times, where it's like he maintains like a certain kind of like politeness.
Yes, he
at all
does.
times.
Absolutely. Yeah, he really does. But then he says he has to leave. The parents won't want a werewolf teaching their children. And I see their point. He says, I could have bitten any of you. To which I said, doubtful. Doubtful. Terrible aim as a werewolf, Lupin.
You were chained to two of them and bit neither of them.
Yeah, you were chained to two people, both of whom you attacked. And your worst enemy, or maybe man who hates you the most, Severus Snape, was floating there like a half-inflated balloon.
just a bag of meat.
Just a bag of meat waiting to be attacked, covered in delicious grease probably, and you missed him too. So I could have bitten any of you. I doubt it.
Right.
So, but either way, said this must never happen again. And you know what? I highlighted that because guess what? It won't. Lupin will not transform again the whole series.
Yeah, I know. It just sort of seems like one of those things where that's another one where the sun just sort of sets on that problem, and it's just sort of like, yeah, this is, like, whatever. It was an issue, now it's not.
It was an issue.
But Harry does respond. This is another like sort of Dumbledore moment, but he says, "You're the best defense against the dark arts teacher we've ever had," said Harry. "Don't go." And this, I mean, it's kind of interesting because I never really drawn the parallels between Lupin and Dumbledore before, but even in the Fantastic Beasts saga, like they come in to like take Dumbledore at some point in time, and I forget who, it's a name drop for someone, McLaggen.
Yeah.
I think it's like he says that like to the Ministry officials who are there to talk to Dumbledore. He's like, "He's the best professor we've ever had." So it's like they do kind of share that like that accolade from their students.
Yeah, they do. So yeah, Lupin and Dumbledore, definitely a lot in common between the two of them. I love that Lupin says, you saved a lot of lives last night, Harry. So he's like so impressed. And he even knows about the Patronus, which so this is another one. We talked about this last time where they're like, no idea why the Dementors went away. And it's like, nope, couldn't figure that out.
Right.
And like Lupin, on the other hand, is like, he wasn't even there. He just said, he's like, tell me about what you did. And he's like, how'd you know about that? And he says like, well, like what else could have done it? It had to be that. What else could have driven the Dementors back? Yeah, a conclusion neither Snape or Fudge can make, even though Snape can cast a Patronus.
I know. Well, so this was an interesting one. This is another one we got some feedback on after last week's episode because we were talking about this. And I think when Snape is teaching Harry in Half-Blood Prince as the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, there's like a moment where like Harry and him have like squabbles over the best way to handle a Dementor attack.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of interesting because like maybe it means that like Snape would have contemplated like a different way to have defeated them. So like
summon his unicorn buddy.
Yeah, as long as you have a spare unicorn hanging around, you're totally fine.
Exactly. We all know that.
Yeah, of course.
It's through the Gryffindor canon.
Right.
Hogwarts is a dragon. Unicorns can kill Dementors.
Known facts.
No problem.
Yeah. But I just think it's interesting because it's like, I guess it means that maybe Snape knows other ways, like, or maybe there are other ways, but even when asked by Fudge, it doesn't seem like, Snape's coming up with any other examples.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe there are other ways to do it, but it's not like Snape is listing those in this situation either. So
nope.
But I thought that was a good point because I was like, oh, that is true. Eventually they will have a lesson on Dementors and there will be a squabble about it. So
yeah. So let's see. He also Harry recounts the story of the last night, and Lupin, he makes an interesting comment. He says, yes, your father was always a stag when he transformed. That's why we called him Prongs. And it's weird the way he phrases that. He says, your father was always a stag, like, because it makes it sound like James, like you the person transforming as an animagus, has a choice about what you would turn into.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Like, I mean, because otherwise, if you just remove the word always, it just says, yes, your father was a stag when he transformed.
Right.
Like, so the always is like an unnecessary word that changes the context.
It is an unnecessary word because the fact is you don't get to choose at all. Like, you don't even get to choose initially what it's going to be.
Right.
It's just like after you've gone through the entire process, which involves like holding a leaf in your mouth for like an entire month and pointing your wand at your chest and like chanting the same words every day and then waiting for a lightning storm. But eventually you get there, and when you point the wand at your chest and say the words, you will get a vision of the animal that you will turn into.
Right.
So it's like, and that's it. That's what you will always turn into. It doesn't change. You don't have a choice. That's it.
Right.
So yeah, just weird wording by Lupin.
Right. Like it almost suggests, like, if you don't go to like further reading on Pottermore to get that additional information about like the Animagus transformation, which we have always counted as canon. So I'm saying this, in a very like blurry way, but like maybe there's something you could pull on to be like possibly there's like the ability to turn into other things, but we have no precedent for it inside of the book canon at all, and everything in further reading just sort of supports everything else we always see. So it really is just almost like a line that like it feels like in future like publications they could just like go through and just 86 that one.
Just nix that one.
Yeah, we don't need
it does seem like that. Then Lupin returns the invisibility cloak, which he has retrieved from the Shrieking Shack. And then he also gives him the Marauder's map, because Harry's got to get all of his tools back for the next year.
Yes.
And I love he says, and I dare say you, Ron, and Hermione will find uses for it. Harry took the map and grinned. So I love that line, because it's like, underneath it all, Lupin is just like a true marauder. He's just like, yeah, more mischief, though. Like, it probably is more responsible to keep it, but he's like, nah.
Dude, I would struggle with this so much if I was personally Lupin at school and like I was like seeing Harry like attempting to do the types of things that I would have approved of as a student myself. I'd be like, oh man, you're right there, but I really need to be responsible as your teacher, but I really don't want to be.
Oh, I know. I feel like I have this sometimes with my own sons where like over the summer, we went to we were out on the boat with you and your family, and we would like go to these like rocks to go jump off into the water,
yes,
or whatever. And I would watch my kids go up to the rocks, and they started doing like flips off of it.
Yes.
And and it was like, to me, I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. And then my wife, Beth, is like, no, stop that. No flips.
I know, it's like that's probably the right position.
I
but
know.
Like, did you see his form?
I know. I'm like, I know they probably shouldn't be doing it, but pretty awesome though, right? But they did do it.
We can all agree it was pretty
cool.
Agree.
I know.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd be handing them the map, be like, "Go find some Honey Duke's candy."
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I know. 100%.
Don't tell your mom.
Hopefully, Beth doesn't listen to this episode. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
no.
Let's see here. Then Lupin does go on to say, I have no hesitation in saying that James would have been very disappointed had his son never found any of the secret passages out of the castle, which is just adorable. Like, because I mean, that's like a moment where it's like you could sort of imagine James sending Harry off to school and maybe not immediately giving him like the map, like maybe not immediately letting him know, like, hey, here's a thing you can do. But like coming home his first year, second year, being like, so did you find anything? It's like, you did, my boy.
What was it? Was it the one-eyed witch? Don't look under there. Nothing to see. Wink. Yeah.
Descendium.
Descendium. What was that? Nothing?
I don't know. Yeah. Lily, where are we?
Yeah. Yes. It's across from the trolls. Yeah. I love it. Just a quick mention there. It says, Harry put the invisibility cloak into his pocket, which is just another, I'll just point it out again, that cloaks are massive, and you could not just put it into your pocket.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it, because it's a pretty big piece of parchment.
Yeah. Or no. This is the cloak.
Oh, the cloak.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yes. Yeah. That's where it's like, well, or does the cloak just fold into like a really small square?
Absolutely. I just think the cloak it's another magical aspect of the cloak. I think that it can like change size or be folded down smaller than a regular piece of clothing.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah. Let's see here. Then at that point in time, there's a knock on the door, and Professor Dumbledore came in. It says he didn't seem surprised to see Harry there. This is just another one of those things, because like we talked about it a lot like earlier on, but like Dumbledore always seems to know where everyone is as well, because like we just had the situation where like Harry walked into this exact same classroom, and Lupin's like, I saw you coming, because he's looking at the Marauders map. And this is another situation where Dumbledore's sort of like, yep, of course, I knew Harry would be here. Yeah. And I mean, that could be as simple as like Dumbledore knows Harry well enough to know that he's the kind of caring person who, when he found out that Lupin would be leaving, would go and like see him off or go and be involved or whatever. So it could be that simple. But Dumbledore knowing where Harry is throughout like earlier bits of this saga, it definitely reads to me like Dumbledore has his own form of magic that's like keeping
tabs on people.
Yes, like geophysical tabs on like where everybody's going.
Something like that. Like it's hard to think he has like a map because like next year when Barty Crouch Jr. is being like revealed, he'll be like, I saw whoever on the map, and Dumbledore's like, map? What map?
Right,
and he's just sort of like, he's like, Potter's map at the school of Hogwarts. There's got a map right there. Look.
Very useful.
Very useful. Yeah. But let's see. Lupin has just a nice little farewell here. It's been a real pleasure teaching you. I feel sure we will meet again sometime. And so they will, but not nearly soon enough, if you ask me.
I agree. Yeah. Yep. Let's see here. So then you kind of have an interesting situation where Harry is left in the room with Dumbledore, and we kind of get like this, like sort of, to me, what I feel like should be a foreshadowing line, because basically Lupin leaves the office, and then it says Harry sat down in his vacated chair.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is just like so one of those things where it's like where he belongs.
Yeah.
As the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor position.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, it feels like no mistake that this line is here.
I know.
Like that's what this is supposed to be setting up. Like, they're in that classroom. He's sitting in the chair that the teacher would be sitting in.
Yeah, I mean, not even just his office, not even just the chair. You know, like it absolutely seems like it's setting up. Like I would maybe you could argue it's setting up that like Harry's going to lead the DA or something, but like no, like this it's like it bothers me to no end that Harry does not become the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor.
Even the fact that it's called the DA and like Defense Against the Dark Arts is DA.
Yeah.
Like it feels like that is no mistake.
Yeah.
Like Harry is teaching Defense Against the Dark Arts under an organization called the DA.
Yeah.
It's like, it's all right there.
It's all right there. You're right. It feels like this line was supposed to be foreshadowing, and then for some reason a different turn was taken. But I love the line from Dumbledore. This is just like it's like a gentle parenting line where he says, "You should be very proud of yourself after last night." Not I'm very proud of you. Just that you should be proud of yourself.
Sure. Yeah.
Very very good. Very very nice little parenting by Dumbledore there. But Harry says it didn't make any difference, which is just sort of like Pettigrew got away. Which is like, Harry, give yourself some credit, dude.
I know. Yeah. He's definitely being like a bit too hard on himself. But I do still like Dumbledore's response. Like, it didn't make any difference, said Dumbledore quietly. It made all the difference in the world, Harry. You helped uncover the truth. You saved an innocent man from a terrible fate. Like, I think this goes to show what we were not seeing from Fudge earlier, where he's immediately, like, Fudge's mind immediately goes to the Daily Prophet, whereas, like, Dumbledore is immediately going to, like his value is in the truth. Like, it doesn't matter that there's not this, like, big glorious moment for the Daily Prophet. You discovered what actually happened.
Right.
That is what we should be aiming for, and you did that. And you saved an innocent man. It's like, these are the things we prioritize as, like, you know, the good guys, like the people who have, you know, our moral compass facing the right direction.
Right. So it's like Fudge has this very, like, pompous, like, take on the situation where how it's going to be bad for him. Harry has this, like, almost like worst case scenario view on the situation. It was like, yeah, we did all that, but the, like, Voldemort's still going to come back. And Dumbledore, on the other hand, is like, no, none of those things are nearly as important as these things. And this is more of, like, the Dumbledore teaching him about, like, the deep magic kind of stuff.
Yes.
Where it's just like, yes, like, focusing on the truth, saving innocent people, like, that's more important than, like, preventing Voldemort's return.
Right. But, of course, Harry then realizes that he hasn't told Dumbledore about something, which is the Professor Trelawney prediction from the night before. And I think probably if you are Harry, there's a small piece of you in the back of your mind that's thinking, like, well, you say that, Dumbledore, but you don't know the whole story.
That's true. That's true. I guess he doesn't know that at this point.
He doesn't know that at this point.
Yeah.
So he basically, you kind of have this really funny exchange where Harry's going to tell him what happened. And he's like, Professor Dumbledore, yesterday when I was having my divination exam, Professor Trelawney went very, very strange. And Dumbledore's like, indeed. Or stranger than usual, you mean?
I just highlighted that. It was just like,
I know. Same. It's just like, I mean, you got to clarify. You know, like,
oh, she's always strange. Like, even Dumbledore thinks she's a little batty, maybe.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe just a little bit. So he basically goes on to explain and said that the servant would help him, the Dark Lord, come back to power. And let's see here. And it says Dumbledore looked mildly impressed, and he says, "Do you know, Harry? I think she might have been having a real prophecy. Who'd have thought? That brings her total of real predictions up to 2. I should offer her a pay raise."
I know that. Okay, a couple of things here. One, I think it's so interesting that Dumbledore last night did not know any of the prophecy stuff. So everything he's setting into motion last night, he's doing without that bit of information.
Yes.
Which is maybe it's just interesting to make note of. Mildly impressed, I bet. And then he said, who'd have thought it? You, Dumbledore. But the big one is that brings her total of real predictions up to 2. Because that sentence right there is like, for like massive foreshadowing for like the entirety of Order of the Phoenix.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, that's the type of thing too, that like if you were like, we were too young to be this kind of like eagle-eyed reader, you know, when these books were originally coming out in between the various releases. But like if we were who we are now and we had this book, we would be making entire videos about that line.
Yeah.
Because it would be like, what's the other one?
What's the other one?
You know, and it'd be like, you could go through it, and I bet we would even be like, everything she says does kind of come true, doesn't it? Like,
yeah,
there's this and this and this and this, you know, and it's like, so it almost makes it feel like, yeah, like this is all laid out very, very neatly, very intentionally, but we're going to have to wait. Like it's going to take another whole massive book before that particular line gets to come to fruition.
Yeah. So we are gonna. It is a long setup, but there it is, right there, up to 2. Also, why Dumbledore hires Trelawney in the first place. In which case, that's another thing when you're reading it, you're like, why would Dumbledore hire this lady? Because she doesn't seem like she knows what she's doing.
Right.
Yep. But then Harry has to go out of his way to gaslight himself now. He says, but I stopped Sirius and Professor Lupin from killing Pettigrew. That makes it my fault if Voldemort comes back. And it's like, no, it does not, dude.
I know. Yeah. This feels like such like serious logic from inside the shrinking shack, where it's like that classic, like, well, I may as well have.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, Sirius, okay, you need to be more clear with your words given the circumstances. But I do think that Harry is unfortunately like sort of taking a little bit of that. And it's just like, no, Harry, it's not your fault if Voldemort comes back. Voldemort is a terrible and powerful force.
Right. Yeah. It's like Peter goes and does that. It's Peter's fault.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Let's see. And then Dumbledore has this line here. He says, Hasn't your experience with the time turner taught you anything, Harry? The consequences of our actions are always so complicated, so diverse, that predicting the future is a very difficult business indeed. Which I just highlighted that one because we used that one in our video today about explaining how time travel works in the wizarding world, because we got a lot of comments on our Chapter 21 Hermione's Secret episode of Through the Gryffindor that people were like, what do you mean when you say everything that happened always happened?
Right.
And basically what it comes down to is that like once the time turner is in effect, like all of the decisions you in the present will make like will lead you to the point of using that time turner.
Yes.
Right. Like because the time turner has been turned and there's now a second version of you in that line, like that timeline, like both of you yourselves are in that section of the timeline always now.
Yes, simultaneously and always.
Right. Which means that the present version of yourself will always make decisions or experience life in such a way that it will lead you to the point where you came back.
Right.
So like there is this like weird bit of like predestination at that point. Like you will get to the point where you use the time turner.
Right.
But at the same rate, like Harry, of course, like when he goes down to Hagrid's and like when they're in the Shrieking Shack, he doesn't even know about the time turner.
Right.
So it's like it doesn't, even though like there is like this kind of like predestination sense that like you will get to that point, it's not like controlling your actions. It doesn't like mean Harry doesn't have free will to make his own choices. It's just that those choices will lead him to the time turner.
Yield a particular outcome.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I know. And it gets very confusing and strange when it comes to this kind of time travel. Like there's this concept of the bootstrap paradox, which is, it's sort of hard to explain, but I found a really good example that I liked, which was basically like, let's say, you travel back in time and give Beethoven the sheet music that goes on to make Beethoven incredibly famous. And then fast forward 200 years and you're listening to Beethoven's music and it inspires you so much that you want to go back in time and give it to Beethoven to make sure that he makes that music. It's like, who originally wrote the music?
Right. Like then that sheet music has no origin point.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. And so that's sort of like what's happening here. It's like the actions inside of the present are already being influenced by time turner behavior that won't go into effect until all of these events have already taken place. But because he will eventually use the time turner, everything will always happen the way that it does. So the origin point is so confusing and can be very frustrating because it's just sort of like ambiguous.
Well, the origin point is the act of turning the turner.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. Yes. But the like how in the present they can already be there when they haven't gotten there yet in the present, I think is what throws people.
It is what throws people, but like because they're not traveling back to like a new timeline, they're traveling back into the same timeline.
Right.
It's like, well, then they're there at the same time and they always were there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So that's like the really big like earmark where it's like Dumbledore makes a big emphasis on how like, you know, you need to make sure Sirius is saved before the kiss happens, because once the kiss happens, you can't go back from before the kiss and save him.
Right.
Because once the kiss has happened, it will always happen, and there's nothing you can do. Any amount of interference you try to do will fail because the kiss happened.
Or because the kiss happened. It's like, I think it's also confusing because like so much of the writing is done to like preserve the moment where Harry realizes like, oh wait, it's me, I cast the Patronus.
Yes, that is
like,
definitely the objective.
That's the objective, to like give you the reader that like moment. But what it can be confusing because like it can feel like what actually happened was that like Harry, Ron, and Hermione went down to Hagrid's, and then the executioner came down, and then McNair killed Buckbeak. And that was really sad. And then they went to the Shrieking Shack and they came up to the hospital wing and Dumbledore was like, hey, actually, you can go back in time and change that.
Right.
And then they went back in time and on round 2, they saved Buckbeak. So that didn't happen. But that is not the case. Like in neither scenario did Buckbeak die ever.
Right.
Just you don't have all of the context for what happened the first time because Harry and Ron and Hermione exit the scene and just hear what sounds like Buckbeak being executed, but Buckbeak is at no point ever dies.
Right, yeah. It's like you hear the swishing of the axe, you hear the thud, and that's the executioner swinging the axe and like lodging it in the fence, and the howling that's coming afterwards is not Hagrid crying, but it's Hagrid like, letting out tears of joy that Buckbeak is safe. So it's all it does make sense if you take enough time to really process it, but I do know why it's confusing.
Yeah, it is.
So hopefully all that did make sense.
Hopefully it does make sense. Yeah.
Anyway, as we get back to our chapter here, let's see here. Dumbledore does also assure Harry that you did a very noble thing last night in saving Pettigrew's life, and Harry tries to interject, saying, but if he helps Voldemort back to power, and then Dumbledore basically responds, he's like, Pettigrew owes you his life. You have sent Voldemort a deputy who is in your debt. When one wizard saves another wizard's life, it creates a certain bond between them.
Yeah.
And this bond will also take a really long time to pay off, but eventually it does in Malfoy Manor.
Yes, absolutely. This is what's going to lead pretty much to Peter's death.
Yes.
Because after Peter cuts his hand off, Voldemort's going to give him the silver hand, and then there's going to be Harry will remind him that he showed Pettigrew mercy, and Peter turns out has like a tiny shred of good in him. Basically, maybe it's just this activating, but he hesitates in killing Harry, kind of remembering that Harry did save him once.
Right.
And then, of course, the Silver Hand is like, whoa, are you not loyal to Voldemort in this moment? Time to die.
Yeah. Voldemort's got like a little like treason detector built into his silver adornment. So it's like, if you go against me, then I'm going to know.
I'm going to know, and you're going to die.
And you're not going to get very far.
That. It's also, this line is interesting. It says when one wizard saves another wizard's life, it creates a certain bond between them, because like James saved Snape, right?
Yep.
So did that like create this sort of bond between them as well?
So how would that play out?
I don't know. Is that like part of like why Snape has to go tell Voldemort about the prophecy or anything? Or
do you think in any way that like the way that James cashes in on this is almost whatever protective elements were required, Lily's willingness to sacrifice herself in the name of saving Harry is all like being magically guided by that magic? Does that make sense? Like, so instead of like James cashing in on this protection of Snape for himself, it's almost as if it's cashed in on behalf of like Harry instead.
I see what you mean.
The circumstances under which like Lily is allowed to live and chooses to die anyway are potentially, arguably, mildly contrived.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But like, it's also hard to think that like it is the act of James stopping, like saving Snape, that causes him to go tell Dumbledore about the prophecy, versus Snape just being in love, because like love seems so much more like the heavier theme,
right?
For like, that's what would win out. But I guess it doesn't hurt if it's kind of like both of them.
Sure.
Like, saving someone's life and him being in love with Lily, because then like James and Lily both have like a little bit more to do with it.
Sure.
Or James has more to do with it. Otherwise, Lily has everything to do with it.
Although, I don't want to take from Lily at all, because I think she's sort of like we've always like loved her as a just otherwise infallible character. And just sort of like a beacon of positivity and goodness. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting one. You're right, because there is sort of like this life debt does seem like it should exist between Snape and James.
Yeah. Okay. Also in there, like Snape, would it count when Snape is like doing the counter curse on the broom in year 1?
Oh, like because he is saving Harry under those circumstances on the broomstick against Quirrell.
Yeah.
Whoo, man, that's an interesting one, because it's like, I don't know, that feels more like casting Protego in like a field of like a battlefield or something. Mm-hmm. Like it's like you may have protected somebody, but it's less like deeply personal.
Okay.
Between the two. Like I could see why that argument would be made, but I'm not exactly sure where that one would play out either.
Okay.
But it's an interesting thought.
Yeah, that like Harry is in Snape's debt in some way.
Harry is in Snape's debt. I mean, he does name his child after him. So
that's true.
That almost feels like it required some magical force.
It does seem like that. Like he's like, Albus Severus? And Ginny's like, excuse me.
No.
How about no? When he's like, I really don't see any way around it. I feel I'm trying not to write it. And he's like, Harry, I think we can think of like 100 other names. How about Fred? Fred would be good.
Fred seems good.
How about Fred? Remember him? Remember my dead brother? It's too late, Ginny. I wrote Severus down on the form. I don't know what to tell you. I don't even remember. I blacked out. I don't remember.
I gave it to the nurse already. So
it's too late.
It's been done.
Oh, I'm going to go get it. Yeah.
They've already sent off the owl.
They've already sent off the owl.
Darn it.
Well, this is your fault.
This is what it is.
This is your fault. It was like, I don't know what happened. Sorry about that.
So Ginny's like Harry.
We already, all right, we're naming, you know what? Next time, if it's a girl, I get to choose the middle name. Yeah. Luna. How about that?
Oh.
Still alive. She's not even dead. Lily Luna. What? Why does Luna's name get chosen for that? I don't even know. It seems surprising to me.
It does seem surprising.
Like, I'm surprised it's not like after Tonks or something. Or who else would be a better middle name for Lily, Harry's daughter? Because I would say the reason I bring up Tonks is because Harry is godfather to Teddy Lupin.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like there is the connection where Remus and Nymphadora chose Harry to be the godfather. So like they have a connection there.
You know who else we got?
And she's dead.
Minerva. Well,
she's still alive too.
I know, but she's amazing.
But also better. Yeah, like Lily, Minerva, Potter, Lily, Nymphadora, Potter. You know, these are way better than Luna.
They all roll right off the tongue.
I know. Lavender.
Not Lavender.
Not Lavender. Lily Lavender? No, not Lavender. But not that there's anything wrong with naming someone after someone who's still alive or anything.
Yeah.
But like normally it feels like it's in the family kind of situation.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they went through some stuff.
For sure. I just think, you know what? Harry's not good at choosing middle names.
I know. I mean, but his hand was magically forced. That's all I
can assume.
Hogwarts is a dragon. Basilisks have heat vision, and Harry was forced to middle name his child Severus.
Yeah. He tried to write down Fred, and he looked at the paper and was like, huh, that's weird. Oh, no.
Darn it.
Weird. Sorry, Ginny.
At least this will come in handy later when my child's worried about being in Slytherin.
Yeah.
At least there's that.
Then I can be like, he was the bravest man I ever knew. And he'd be like, was he?
Was he?
He's
kind of a jerk.
Was he? Yeah.
Anyway. It's okay. Yeah, we had a tangent.
We did. We had a bit of a tangent there.
Okay, so let's see. But the other thing, though, is that this is another one of those moments, where Dumbledore is saying, this is, so going back to this idea that when one wizard saves another wizard's life, it creates a bond between them. This is magic at its deepest, its most impenetrable. So this is sort of like these early moments where Dumbledore is starting to like trickle in pieces of like Harry's education that it's like he's not getting anywhere else. Like this is stuff like Dumbledore, I think, kind of uniquely is able to convey.
Oh, I know. Like eventually, like in King's Cross, Dumbledore will say like, I hope I was a good teacher. And Harry will say, you were the best. And I'm always like, what did he even teach you? But it's like, this is the stuff.
This is it.
This is the stuff that Dumbledore is teaching him. It's not spells you cast with a wand. It is like the magic that is manifested by doing the right thing.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's it goes exactly back to Lily. It's
yeah.
Like she did the right thing.
Exactly.
And it's like what she got for that was the ultimate protection over her son. So,
right.
Let's see here. So then we do get another great line, which is just basically, I knew your father very well, both at Hogwarts and later, Harry. He said gently, he would have saved Pettigrew too. I am sure of it.
That is absolutely the reassurance that Harry needs, though,
yes.
to like feel better in this situation.
Right. Yes.
Let's see. And then Harry decides he's going to share something personal with him. He says, I thought it was my dad who conjured my Patronus. I mean, when I saw myself across the lake, I thought I was seeing him. And Dumbledore says, like, oh, an easy mistake to make. I expect you're tired of hearing it, but you do look extraordinary like James, except for the eyes. You have your mother's eyes. Oh, man. They're like, so that's just like that. Like, people constantly are telling him that.
Yes, yeah.
All the way.
But I'm proud of Harry for telling Dumbledore this in this particular situation, because Harry is so good at never using the people at his disposal to help him feel better. And in this case, he actually is like, he hesitates, but then does tell him.
Yeah. Okay, and then here's the really big one that I think is so cool. Is that Dumbledore says, "You think the dead we have loved ever truly leave us? You think we don't recall them more clearly than ever in times of great trouble? Your father is alive in you." And this is such a very cool line because it absolutely comes true over and over and over again. Like not in like a, in like a very literal sense.
Yeah.
Like a very magically literal sense. So like, it says, "You think we don't recall them more clearly than ever in times of great trouble." Okay, so first one, Goblet of Fire, big time. Obviously, twin cores, Priori Incantatem, boom. James and Lily literally appear at Harry's side, like are actually there. Let's see. Order of the Phoenix. Harry is possessed by Voldemort during the Battle of the Ministry, and it is when he recalls, I think it's Ron and Hermione in this situation.
Yes.
To his brain that drives Voldemort out of himself. And then, of course, the other big one is in Deathly Hallows, where Harry is marching to his death and calls back Remus, Sirius, James, and Lily via the Resurrection Stone.
Yes.
So that is such big foreshadowing, and it's cool that it happens over and over.
Oh, I know. It really is. I mean, and I think even going back to Philosopher's Stone, you've got the example with the Mirror of Erised, where he sees his whole family, and it's like, then the Mirror of Erised is sort of like the key to unlock the stone itself.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think it's their goodness sort of like radiating through Harry, through space and time, that is helping to allow that to happen.
I know, and it's like, it says you don't, like, I'm trying to think, like, does the mirror, does that count as like times of great trouble? And it's like, I think maybe a little bit, because like at that point Voldemort's in the process of stealing the stone, plus otherwise it's like Harry is just like alone on Christmas. He has no family there. And it's like, but then he does, then he has all of them,
right?
So it's like, it's so cool. I love it. You could even say that in the Chamber of Secrets this is what happens. That, like, he says, Dumbledore will never have truly left the school as long as those who are faithful, are still here or whatever.
Right, and then Fawkes shows up.
And Dumbledore obviously loves Harry.
Yes.
And Fawkes shows up.
Yes.
So there it is again.
So no, it's so perfect. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's like huge, big picture themes going on between Harry and Dumbledore. So gotta love those rare moments where you get these two talking because such important things are said.
Yeah. Yes, so glad we focused in on that for a second. Then Dumbledore reveals that, like, how else could you produce that particular Patronus? Prongs rode again last night, and he reveals that Sirius told him about how they became Animagi, an extraordinary achievement, not the least of which keeping it quiet from me, which is it's like, that's just confirmation that, like, Dumbledore, like, people always wonder, like, oh, did Dumbledore know Sirius was innocent the whole time? And it's like, he did not.
Right.
Because, like, he didn't know about the Animagus stuff. He didn't know they could turn into animals. He didn't know Sirius could become a dog. Like it's just, I don't know. That's the line I feel like that is always the nail in the coffin on that argument.
I mean, that goes back to what we were trying to say earlier too, though, where it's like Dumbledore always seems to know exactly what's going on inside of the castle, and it's like that's an instance where it's like, well, there are moments where he's missing certain bits.
Yeah, where he is missing stuff. And then there's another interesting line he follows up with this. He says, "And then I remembered the most unusual form your Patronus took when it charged Mr. Malfoy down at the Quidditch match against Ravenclaw." So what's interesting about this line is that he calls Harry's Patronus form unusual. He's like, I remember the most unusual form your Patronus took. So, like, to me, why when Harry casts the stag at the Quidditch match does Dumbledore think it's an unusual shape for Harry? Because, like, at that point he doesn't know about, like, James or anything,
right?
But, like, why does it come across as unusual to Dumbledore? Like, what would he have? What would have been usual? What would have been the expected Patronus for Harry?
I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. Like, just last year he would have pulled the Sword of Gryffindor from the hat, so, like, there's a chance that it could have been like a lion.
Sure.
Because that's sort of like the mascot of the house. That would be like an obvious sort of like embodiment type thing.
Yeah.
He would know of Harry's connection to Ignotus Peverell because he would have had James's cloak and he would have had both Deathly Hallows, and he would know that it's a Deathly Hallow. So, is there anything or anyone attached to Ignotus or the Peveril coat of arms that's a beast of some kind?
Thestrals, I guess.
Maybe a Thestral. Yeah, that's a possibility.
That's the what's inside the Elder Wand, in case you're wondering why that was the connection there.
Well, yeah. And then also like invisibility, Thestrals are invisible. And then, like Resurrection Stone, it's like you can only see it if you've seen the dead. And then like Resurrection Stone helps you see the dead. So each one is kind of connected to the Thestrals. So okay, let's see here. I don't know what else would have obviously made sense for Harry. I mean, he can speak to snakes, so maybe a snake. But,
that would probably be like an alarm bell for Dumbledore. Like, whoa, what was that?
It's like, oh, Deebs.
Uh-oh.
I know. Yeah, I can't think of anything else that immediately comes to mind that would seem like a very, very clear fit.
Yeah.
I mean, Harry has an owl, but that seems like sort of more commonplace within the wizarding world.
I mean, we know that. Well, I don't know. Dumbledore's Patronus is like a phoenix, and I guess Harry's sort of like he didn't like die and come back to life. He's just but he has the phoenix core, I guess. And I guess he didn't die. I don't know.
What are you going on there?
Would it have been weird if Harry's Patronus was a phoenix?
I think it would have been weird.
Okay.
Yeah. I think if anything, the fact that Dumbledore's is a phoenix would translate better to the idea that Harry's could be a Thestral just by way of Ignotus.
Right.
But yeah, otherwise, I mean, he grows up in Godric's Hollow, which I think Lion.
Lion, I think, that would be like, that would be. Let us know what you think. Would it be Lion, possibly Thestral, something else?
Yeah, I'm open to suggestions there because we don't have a specific answer there or anything that lives in our headcanon. So, so let's see here. Then as we move forward, though, we kind of get like a page break here, and at this point we get back to time with Harry, Ron, and Hermione together. There is a line that says, "Nobody at Hogwarts knew the truth of what had happened the night that Sirius, Buckbeak, and Pettigrew had vanished, except that Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Professor Dumbledore." And that kind of goes back to that line, like, what happened last night is a total mystery, so naturally the whole school knows.
Yeah,
it's like, why does that not happen this time? Like, it seems like that would have been totally plausible, right?
Right. Because if everyone knows this time, then there's no tension.
There's no tension.
Everyone's just like, Sirius Black is innocent. Wow.
Wow.
We didn't know.
None
of them came close to the truth. Yeah. Malfoy was furious about Buckbeak, which was just like, dude, get over it.
I know. It's like, Malfoy, you gotta let this go, man. Like, you have not had the most interesting book, if I'm being completely point blank with you. Really, I mean, like, obviously Buckbeak and the Hippogriff situation and Malfoy and all that are like vital and central to the plot. Like, it is important, but we've said it before and I'll say it again, but like, really, Malfoy, Hagrid, and Buckbeak are all in here for the purpose of tying these lines together.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty much the only function they're really providing here. So that's okay though. Let's see here.
I got Percy gets a little set up for the next book as well. It says, if I manage to get into the ministry, I'll have a lot of proposals to make magical law enforcement, about magical law enforcement. And he definitely does. He has many proposals about those things, and eventually they start going against Dumbledore and Harry in Order of the Phoenix.
Yep. Although I did highlight that, and I said, it says, if I manage to get into the ministry, I'll have a lot of proposals to make about magical law enforcement. And I said, or cauldron bottoms.
Cauldron bottoms, very important.
Important stuff. Yeah. Let's see.
Shadow bottom cauldrons, Ron. Flimsy.
It's a real danger.
Yep.
Let's see here. It does say that Harry had never approached the end of a school year in worse spirits.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like a big deal as well, because like he's accomplished a lot, but like I think it's basically just he is struggling with the fact that he had that life with Sirius stripped from him, which again I think kind of goes back to this idea that living with the Dursleys is just that miserable by comparison.
Well, it's going to even say, like, he says he kept wondering whether Pettigrew was now where Pettigrew was now, whether it's at Sanctuary with Voldemort yet. But the thing that was lowering Harry's spirits most of all was the prospect of returning to the Dursleys, which I just think that is such an interesting like comparison right there. It's like Harry is like weighing in his mind, like, what's making me feel the worst? The idea that Voldemort might come back, or that I have to go live with the Dursleys. Yeah. And it's definitely the Dursleys.
It's the Dursleys. It's like, y'all, that's an insult.
Yeah.
That you need to receive and take notes and make adjustments and do better.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's my message from me, Ben Carlin, to you, Vernon and Petunia Dursley.
Yeah, I'm sure they took that with just take it to heart. And they're new people,
right?
Yep. They also there's like Seamus Finnegan wonders. I wonder what they'll give us next year. In regards to Defense Against the Dark Arts Professor, which I don't know if that counts as like a clue where he says what they'll give us next year, like because it'll be someone in disguise.
Yeah, I suppose there's that. I mean, I think there's sort of like, we had a werewolf this year, like, what'll it be next time? And then Dean's like, maybe a vampire.
Which I said not till book 6.
Yeah, exactly. With Snape.
Yeah.
I love that one. That's one of those theories that, like, I don't believe that Snape is a vampire, but there is a really fun theory to make about it.
Yeah.
And really, since it comes at Snape's expense, I'm sort of pleased with it. So let's see here. Then we move forward. Harry, Ron, Hermione had passed every subject. Harry was amazed that he had gotten through potions. He had a shrewd suspicion that Dumbledore might have stepped in from Snape failing him on purpose.
But as we pointed out earlier, it said like in potions, it says Harry spies Snape marking down what looked suspiciously like a 0. However, per wizarding grades, an O is for outstanding.
Yes, exactly.
So it might look like a 0, but
but it's a no.
Clearly, it's a no.
Yes, he aced that class.
Aced it, yeah. I can just imagine Snape being back there like, oh my god, this is the worst. I have to go say something mean to him. Obviously, I can't let him know he's doing a good job. And it's like, that potion is perfect. Oh my gosh, I hate my life. This is the worst. Yeah.
Yes, I could totally see that.
Yeah.
He's just that is like gaslighting at its worst. It's like, you've done terribly. I technically have to give you full marks because that is actually amazing. But
right.
Yes, you've done terrible. We also find out that Percy got top grades on his NEWTs. Fred and George had scraped a handful of OWLs each, which is kind of one of those details that like the Harry, Ron, and Hermione don't find out until like the summer after year 5.
Right. So they got theirs back real fast.
Yes. Maybe it was because there wasn't a whole lot of grading involved with theirs. Per Fred and George. Gryffindor once again wins the house championship for the 3rd year running, thanks in huge part to the performance of the Gryffindor Quidditch team.
Yeah.
Which means the end of year feast is all scarlet and gold.
Of course. And I just like noted here, like at the end of the first book, like there's a whole big speech by Dumbledore awarding the points, changing the banners. Like the House Cup is this huge deal. And here by the end of book 3, it is the house championship and the awarding of the cup takes up half of a sentence.
Yes, it's basically a completely like off-page event.
Like it's like an afterthought at this point. Yeah.
They finally make it onto the Hogwarts Express, where Hermione drops some super surprising news because she has made the brave decision, you might say, to drop Muggle studies.
Smart.
Yeah. Ron points out, but you passed your exam with 320%.
Yeah.
How much extra credit is being given on these exams?
I know. I had when I was in high school, my Latin class, for whatever reason, and I had separate teachers, like different teachers year to year, but for whatever reason, they would always put so much available bonus credit on the tests.
Man.
Like, I would get them back and it'd be like, great, you got 180 on this. I'd be like, wow. That's awesome.
Do I even need to take the next
one?
Right.
Am I just good now for the future? It's like, okay. And like you can just get things wrong, and still get up there. So I don't know. Maybe certain classes just lend themselves to bonus credit.
Maybe so. But I do like the 320% detail because that's just a fun piece of trivia. So how much did she pass her Muggle Studies exam with?
320%.
Yeah, 320%.
Got it. Committed to memory.
Yeah.
Immediately forget it.
Yep.
So Hermione says she's turned in the time turner. It was driving me mad. I've handed it in. Basically, this is the time turner being like, yeah, we're not going to have that next year. So we won't be able to solve our problems this way anymore.
Yeah, and I think that the introduction of time travel is one of those things that any fantasy author is going to be like, now we have to contend with that.
Right, like why isn't this a solution all the time?
We could basically solve every problem by doing time travel. So let's just make them go away, and then a couple years from now, we'll just like smash them for goodsies. Yeah. And that does happen at the Battle of the Department of Mysteries.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Ron is still grumpy that she never told them. We're supposed to be your friends. And she's like, I promised I wouldn't tell anyone. And I'm like, Harry tells you literally everything.
I know, Hermione.
Like, I think maybe you could have told them about it. But whatever. Let's see. And then they have 2 whole months before he's going to get to see them again, which seems like a complete eternity to Harry.
It does.
Yeah.
But Ron does point out, Harry, you've got to come and stay with us. I'll fix it with Mom and Dad. Then I'll call you. I know how to use a felly-tone now.
Yeah.
Hermione's like, a telephone, Ron.
Telephone, Ron. Telephone. I'll do it.
Yeah,
it's fine. Yeah.
Hermione really should do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they do bring up the Quidditch World Cup, which I think is like some excellent setup because that does in fact happen. And he does say that Dad can usually get tickets from work, but he doesn't know at this point in time just how good those tickets are going to be.
Boy, I mean, who could have foreseen Otto Bagman's lawnmower troubles, you know?
Not me.
I know.
Not me by a mile.
Did he like mow down a whole forest or something, you know?
He almost must have made, I mean, can you imagine, if you made like a lawnmower like the size of like, I don't even know what, like a aircraft carrier.
I don't know.
You know, and it like literally is just like, meow.
Yeah, but I mean, Harry is sitting... imagine, this, I can't even... The generosity of Ludo Bagman in this situation with Arthur Weasley for getting his brother out of a spot of trouble with a lawnmower is just outrageous.
Yes.
The crime... I need to know more about the crime with the lawnmower.
The great lawnmower incident of 94.
Can you imagine that, you have a friend at work?
Yeah.
I get, let's say, for who edits this? Isabel? No, Ethan. Ethan edits this one. Sorry. Ethan's like, hey, Ben, can you come fix my lawnmower this weekend? And you go over to Ethan's and fix the lawnmower. And he's like, thanks so much for that. By the way, just as a quick thank you, I've got 10 tickets to the Super Bowl. Would you be interested in going?
Yeah, they're top box.
They're
tickets.
top box. You'll be sitting not just top box, but you'll be standing next to Tony Romo as he announces the game. Does that sound good to you? Or
I mean, you fixed my lawnmower.
You did fix my lawnmower.
Yeah.
So
yeah, these are only worth easily $100,000.
That would be about $100,000, maybe more.
Maybe more for top box.
I don't think
tickets.
anyone gets to stand next to the commentators.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So, I know. Yeah. I mean, it's just bonkers. So I'm sure we'll come back to that.
I'm sure we will
as we get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, then Harry points out. He says, "Yeah, but the Dursleys be pleased to let me come, especially after what I did to Aunt Marge." To which I'm still not over, and I was just like, "She had it coming."
She had it coming.
Yeah.
And frankly, it didn't really seem like Petunia liked Aunt Marge very much. I'm surprised Petunia's not just sliding Harry some extra grapefruit.
Yeah, this upcoming summer because
yeah.
Yes, I agree with you completely. It seems like Petunia, because this is not an unknown trope in all of writing or just also reality sometimes, but in-laws can be a thing.
Yeah.
It's it wouldn't be unreasonable for Petunia to also not like Marge.
Right.
And I feel like it would give you this very, very rare moment of life being good between Harry and his aunt.
Right.
His blood relative.
Just the slightest bit of niceness.
Right. Maybe they could have just exchanged a glance of can you like an eye roll or
right.
something. It would have been because it would humanize Petunia so much.
A little bit, but
Yeah.
no, nothing doing there.
Nothing doing.
Yep.
Let's see here. The trolley witch comes by and Harry he bought himself a very large lunch, although nothing with chocolate in it.
Yeah.
He's had enough for one
Had
lifetime.
enough of that, yeah, right. Too many, too dementory. But then we get a little owl showing up, buffeted this way and that in the train's slipstream. It felt like a very fluffy snitch, so a very tiny little owl here.
Yes.
And Hedwig is not impressed, just clicking her beak with a sort of dignified disapproval, call yourself an owl?
Look at me. I'm majestic.
Look at me.
Majestic.
Look at me.
Ruffles feathers.
Right. No big deal. But it's from Sirius. Hooray. So it's basically just him saying that, hope this finds you before you reach your aunt and uncle. Don't know whether they're used to Owl Post. I've had some doubt about the owl's reliability, but he's the best I could find. And it did seem eager for the job. So, well, thanks for including that. Good to know. As ever, we don't know this reading the book, but basically all owls are in the employ of the ministry or people. So this is a stolen owl as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
Let's see. Muggles, he says, hopefully the security at Hogwarts will be lifted because I'm planning on letting some Muggles see me far away. Which, wizards can move around so effectively. Like, being seen far away after you broke into the castle 3 times doesn't seem like enough for them to be like, I guess we're good now, though, right?
You know, this is really funny because, like, sometimes when we're writing our what ifs, there will be occasions where I feel like you're kind of like, I'm gonna say something and we're all gonna go with it. Cool.
Yeah.
And this to me is one of those instances where it's like I really don't want to deal with Sirius Black related security issues all of next book.
Right.
I don't want that to be a problem. I'm not going to address it. So yeah, this is how
this works.
This works. This
Yeah.
is enough.
Sirius tries it and he succeeds.
Yes, way to go, Sirius. You're so good at everything you do.
Right, just throw logic right out the window there. He also admits to having been the one who sent Harry the Firebolt, which Hermione is like, oh, boom, told ya.
I know, but the explanation I still think is straight up bonkers.
It is straight up bonkers.
Yeah, Crookshanks took the order to the Owl office for me. I used your name, but told them to take the gold from Gringotts vault number 711, my own, which, just as a quick reminder, in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, when it's not 7, it's 13, and when it's not 13, it's 12, and when it's not 12, it's 11.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, it's 711.
There you go.
Sirius's own vault. Remember that for the rest of your life, because that's a great piece of trivia.
Yep.
Also, just absurd.
Also just absurd. Like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I could just go into the bank and be like, hi, I'd like some money for me, but could you take it out of this person's account? Thanks.
Yeah.
No. They don't need to be present or anything at all like that.
Trust me, they consent.
Like, trust me, I'm a cat with a note.
The person
It's fine.
at Quality Quidditch Supplies or wherever the mail order place is here is sort of like, you're buying the most expensive, a cat.
Right. It's not like buying a stick of gum.
Right, and you're buying it for, who is it now? You're buying it for Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
The most
and
famous.
you want me to take it from Sirius Black's vault. No one's tried that before. Yeah. Okay.
Good one, cat. Go about your day.
Move along, cat.
What I like better is our explanation, even though we have a canon word-for-word explanation from Sirius. But I like our explanation better, which is that Sirius can just go into Gringotts because the goblins don't care about wizard affairs.
Yeah.
So, like, they don't care that Sirius is a wanted criminal because they are off living their own life. Like, they have not been treated well by the wizarding populace, and therefore they're not playing by the wizarding populace's rules.
Nope.
And as far as they're concerned, this is a valued customer who has had a very ancient and long-standing relationship with Gringotts Bank, and therefore, yes, here is the gold.
Right.
Go about your day.
Exactly. As long as he can get into the bank and out unnoticed by the other wizards, I don't think the goblins would care.
Exactly.
There
Yes.
you go.
So that's my thinking, even though we have a literal contrary to that belief.
Yeah. Just
explanation.
alter your headcanons because ours is more fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there
exactly.
you go.
Yep, and it fits. Anyway, I'd only hope to get. He says he wants to apologize for the fright that he gave them the night that he left the uncle's house. The Dursleys, obviously. I'd only hoped to get a glimpse of you before starting my journey north, but I think the sight of me alarmed you. This is another little piece of like backtracking, I think, because like when you go back to that scene, Sirius doesn't come across like even Dumbledore has the line where he's like, Sirius has not behaved like an innocent man. And it's like, this is one of those moments that happened early in the book where it's like, Sirius sure seemed menacing when we saw him between those hedges, on Magnolia Crescent or wherever we are.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh yeah, let me bring that up. I just want to say hi.
Yeah. I just wanted to like see ya.
Right.
And then you were just like there. And it's like, I might have startled you. I'm like, well, do you think it was you or was it the bus? Because you know what? If I saw a dog and then almost got hit by a triple-decker purple bus, I think I'd have been more startled by the bus.
If I'm being H with you.
I'm being H with you, exactly.
Yep. But let's see here.
Yeah, he says, if you ever need me, send word. Your owl will find me. And I had initially highlighted this saying, how? And I wrote down, is there a spell you can put on yourself? But it turns out, yes, there is. You can like put a spell on yourself such that only certain owls can find you. So Sirius has clearly done something to that effect so that only Hedwig can find him, which also explains then why like the ministry can't just be like write on a letter like Sirius Black and then follow that owl to wherever he is.
Yes, it's really funny to think that the Wizarding World's version of like crime dogs is just owls.
Yeah, right.
Just like, hey, just send a letter for anybody we're looking for, and like the owl will find them.
They'll just find them. Apparently, though, they could have have just gone to Gringotts with an envelope that said Sirius Black and been like, hey, we're rich.
That would have worked.
That would have worked.
That would have worked. But also included in the envelope is the note from Sirius that says, I, Sirius Black, Harry Potter's godfather, hereby give him permission to visit Hogsmeade on weekends. So there we go. Check mark. That gets to be taken care of. It would be hilarious to witness Harry bringing this to McGonagall.
I know.
But yeah, which is actually the note that I wrote, because Harry goes, that'll be good enough for Dumbledore, Harry said happily. And I was like, can you imagine the rest of the staff, though?
I know. Hands it to Snape.
Yeah. His Snape's like, no, Potter.
Nope.
Yeah.
This ain't gonna fly.
But the letter's not over. There's a P.S.
Yes. I thought of your friend Ron might like to keep this owl, as it's my fault he no longer has a rat. And I'm like, not really your fault, but okay.
I wrote there, and for breaking his leg and dragging him like 3 miles.
Yeah, right. Through an underground cave.
Right. Yeah. I think that's probably the bigger issue than prying the betraying, backstabbing traitor.
Right. I'm pretty sure it's Peter's fault that he doesn't have a rat anymore.
Yes. Yeah. But either way, it's a very nice sentiment.
It is.
And Ron's like, keep him. And he it's kind of a nice moment, because he then holds out this new small owl for Crookshanks to sniff, and he's like, what do you reckon? Definitely an owl? And Crookshanks purred, and he's like, that's good enough for me.
Good enough for me.
So that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Good little moment for Ron.
Good little first circle moment for Ron on Crookshanks, who seems like he's always got some making up to do with Hermione by the end of the book.
Yeah.
Next book it's going to be like, yeah, I guess Crumb wasn't so bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
They're always kind of having to come down for whatever year-long argument's been going on between the two of them.
Yep.
They finally make it back to the platform, where Ron sort of like yells off. He's like, I'll call you about the World Cup. And Vernon is just being his usual, like, just immediately picking up
Immediately.
where he left off. He's just like, he looks at the letter in Harry's hand. He's like, what's that? If it's another form you need me to sign, you've got another. It's not, said Harry cheerfully. It's a letter from my godfather. Godfather, spluttered Uncle Vernon. You haven't got a godfather. Yes, I have, said Harry brightly. He was my mom and dad's best friend. He's a convicted murderer. He's broken out of wizard prison and he's on the run. He likes to keep in touch with me, though, and he keep up with my news. Check if I'm happy.
I know. Love the threat. Love the threat here.
Yes. I'm like, I literally was just like, get him, Harry. Get him.
Get him. Love that. Love that so much. And then grinning broadly at the look of horror on Uncle Vernon's face, Harry set off toward the station exit, Hedwig rattling along in front of him for what looked like a much better summer than the last.
Boom.
The end.
We are done.
We are
with Prisoner
done
of Azkaban.
with Prisoner of Azkaban. I can't believe it, man.
Dang.
Crazy.
That is so fun. Now we get to go and slice the spines clean off of these books so that we can start sending out pages from these copies. So just as a reminder, guys, if you go sign up over on Patreon for an annual membership, we know that my recommendation is the $10 tier, not because it's the larger of the two tiers that we have, but it is completely and utterly ad-free.
Yeah.
I know that those interruptions can be frustrating along the way. I get it. I listen to podcasts too. So if that is something you want to go and check out and you'd like to get a page from one of our books, you can do so at patreon.com/throughthegryffindor. But otherwise, Jay, do you have a review for us?
Well, of course I do, Ben. This review, oh my gosh, I don't know who it came from. I'm sorry. They changed the way I'm able to access the reviews, and sometimes I don't get the name, so I'm sorry if this was you. It says, Werewolf Solution. Hey, brothers, love the show. Always makes me smile when I see new content posted. I might have a solution to the werewolf transformation theory. Perhaps the transformation happens at the instant of the actual full moon and then lasts for the duration of that night. This would explain how it happens for one night and why the transformation happened at a particular instant, even though the moon has been out for a while. It just wasn't actually full yet. Keep up the great work. Hope to hear your thoughts on the theory.
Oh, man. Okay, so I like this because it basically does help to kind of like cut off some of the rougher edges of the explanation that were given inside of the series.
It does. I read this and I was like, this is great.
Yes.
Because so like the way obviously like the full moon quote unquote works is that like you, a regular person, can go outside and see what looks like a full moon for like 3 days a month, basically.
Right, yes. Yeah.
However, of course, the true full moon, 100% full moon, lasts only for like an instant.
Just moments
per space.
Right. Yeah. So this is going to be like, the planets and moon and Earth and everything are always turning and rotating and in orbit. And so it's like if you've ever witnessed like a solar eclipse before, it's like you have like partial coverage, and like it's getting darker outside. The insects start chirping, and then there is the moment of total eclipse,
right?
Where it's like the sun is fully blocked, and it basically like becomes nighttime.
Yeah.
For a spell, it's like you turned the light off,
right?
On outside, but then not long after, the moon continues to move and is no longer blocking the sun, and at that point in time, you can once again start to see partial. So this is happening with the full moon, where you've got like the moment of the full moon.
Yes.
And that's like the catalyst. That's the trigger.
That would say it. So like everything leading up to that moment wouldn't count. It might look to the naked eye like a full moon, but like not until the moment of 100% would the moon become like active.
And I could see if this is something that you struggle with, then you would be, if you don't have the exact science, the exact moment, the exact instant down, it's just not worth risking the exposure
at all.
Yeah.
So basically then what this comment is suggesting is that like after that moment has happened, at any point after that, for that night, the transformation could be triggered.
Right.
Until the following morning.
Right.
Right. So like if we're going into the story, there's the moment where like Harry watches Lupin run out from the castle to the Whomping Willow, and it's like there was a cloud blocking the moon, and you're like, well, that doesn't seem like it should matter.
Right.
But it's like, so this explanation would say that like the moon was out, but it was like at 98% full. It like to Harry it probably looked full, but not 100%. And then by the time they exit the Shrieking Shack and re-emerge into the moonlight, it has passed the breaking point.
Right.
And boom, that such triggers the transformation.
So somebody with a degree in astronomy who's listening right now needs to let us know if we're getting any of this right or all of it wrong.
Right.
That is what we need. But I feel like otherwise it has been one of the more frustrating aspects of reading Prisoner is the weird loosey-goosey rules attached to how werewolves.
We've gotten pretty stuck on it a few times.
We've really like kind of continued to dig the earth underneath us as we discuss it over and over again. So let us know. Is anybody out there who's more qualified with the planetary movements than we are? Does that work?
Could that work?
Can that be the explanation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I like this theory. I think it is very. I think it makes sense.
It makes sense.
And then it would be like, yeah, for the rest of that night you could transform. The morning you come back. But there's a window of period where you would and a longer window where you'd be nervous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There you go. Well, great review. Thank you so much for writing in. As per always, if you have a review for us or any questions that you want to submit, it does always help the show along. And I believe Spotify now allows for comments. So if you'd like to leave comments under the Spotify podcast, we would also appreciate those as well. All helps kind of boost the discoverability of the show and kind of bring some potential new questions that we can feature here in the show. So be sure to check that out wherever you listen.
Yeah, but I think that is going to do it for us for this episode and for Prisoner of Azkaban as a whole. So as per tradition, the next episode of Through the Gryffindor will be our how Prisoner of Azkaban fits into Dumbledore's big plan.
Yes. Yep. So next week's episode will not be Chapter 1 of Goblet of Fire. It will be an analysis of the entire story, which I'm excited for because we didn't spend a ton of time on Dumbledore's big plan chapter by chapter through this particular book, but now we'll get to do an entire episode just outlining all those details that we may have missed.
Yes. So that is going to be next week's episode. And then after that, make sure you join us for Chapter 1, The Riddle House of Goblet of Fire, here on Through the Gryffindor. Guys, also before we go, we just wanted to also announce that the Owlry, the after show we do for the show where we answer letters submitted by you guys, we are going to make this week's episode a public post over on the Patreon page so that if you want to know what it's like, if you just want to like see, am I interested in this, you can go check it out. whether you're a patron or not.
Yeah. So this will just be public facing over on the Patreon page, which is patreon.com/throughthegryffindor. And I got to tell you guys, we just recorded this week's episode and it was a really fun journey.
It was.
I think we may have discovered some rather interesting origins for one Teddy Lupin.
One Teddy Lupin, yeah. We were talking about Teddy Lupin and the origin of his and Tonks's Metamorph Magus powers.
Yes, indeed. So it was a lot of fun. So be sure to go and check it out. Again, that's going to be patreon.com/throughthegryffindor.
Today's episode was edited by Ethan Edghill. Vaishon Brandon does our art. Catherine Stein is our production manager, and the show is hosted by me and Jonathan Carlin.